Welcome to Expert Talks by Kalkine TV. Sage here, your host for this show. And our guest is Jeh Daruvala, the founder and CEO at Yactraq. For some background, Yactraq is a speech analytics vendor with a clear vision statement. It provides a platform to listen and translate omnichannel data into meaningful information. So Yactraq aims to continue to invest, develop and bring to market technological advancements in the field of speech analytics. So bringing you live today, we have Jeh Daruvala, founder and CEO at Yactraq. Welcome to the show, Jeh.
Hi.
So glad to have you with us today. So let's get started with this discussion. In what ways can organisations make the use of your speech analytics platform, please?
Sure. So the things we do, for our clients include, things like, say, for example, we use predictive machine learning to help to automatically, categorize customer experience issues, which previously would have taken very expensive business analysts and human effort, and we can, automatically, categorize all kinds of problems. That's one example. Another one would be that we can support, call center agents in real time, essentially by having either something like a supervisor heat map that can keep track, of all kinds of, problem statements that are being made, on these phone calls, and then supervisors get alerted, and then they can decide, how they come in and support the agent. Potentially, you can also have an agent assist bot that does essentially the same thing automatically by understanding the intent of the customer and then providing some helpful tips and suggestions to the agent as well. Yeah. So these are just some of the things that we can do. Yeah. We also do call center, contact center quality management, which is pretty standard stuff. But I mean, historically, it's been done manually through a sampling technique, and using this kind of software, you can pretty much robotically analyze all the calls, and then you can still do some of the deeper stuff using human analysts, but this takes away the sampling issue. We just analyze all of it. Yeah.
That is amazing. It sounds like such a great support for the call center managers and workers, and I'd love to see it in action, actually. So apart from analysing words, what are the other aspects of speech that your software analysis can do? And could you explain to us a little bit about the mechanics behind it as well?
Sure. So we do other deeper. So speech, of course, the words. There's certainly a lot of complexity there, because when you have words, you can apply all kinds of, natural language understanding and pretty advanced kind of AI techniques on top of that. But additionally, apart from just the words, we also get the tonality with which those words were spoken. I mean, if you want me to just very briefly touch upon it, speech analytics is really mostly about speech to text. There's an automated speech engine that turns it into text. Here it's different. Essentially, the electrical waveform is what is being analyzed directly by the system in order to figure out what kind of emotion is attached to it. So that's one of the things we do that's related to speech. We also pick up on all kinds of signals that are not necessarily speech based by doing this on an omni-channel basis. So to go back to my example of automatically categorizing, say, customer experience issues and problems, we can do this not just for phone calls, but once we have a client and they expect us to kind of comprehensively give them business intelligence of this nature across things like CRM systems, emails, chat logs, the surveys, all kinds of information. We can bring that all together in a single dashboard. So there's a variety of things you can do with these products.
That is amazing. And I wonder how the software will also differentiate between people's accents and cultural backgrounds that may have some influence on how they speak. Does that get incorporated as well?
That actually, that's a tricky one. It's still not an exact science, this speech to text engine. And accents, can create some confusion, some loss of accuracy sometimes. The way we deal with it, that there are, say, for example, you have a speech engine, right? Let's take two quick examples. Since you're in Australia and I'm in Canada, and we have different accents in these countries. Say, for example, the speech engine has been tuned for just the North American accent. It obviously won't do that well with an Australian accent. But on the other hand, we have more advanced speech engines that are like a global English kind of engine. Now, the global English engine may be slightly less accurate, say, than a engine that has been specifically tuned for the Canadian accent in that context, but it's good enough. And not only that, but then it can also pick up the Australian accent just as well, which is a big deal. So you have a single engine that can do all kinds of accents all over the world for a given language. Yeah.
Thank you for explaining that for us. Now, you also do predictive analysis, which is quite interesting. So how accurate are these predictive analyst reports that you can provide?
Yeah, so the way, if we were to try and do such a thing, using a purely cookie cutter approach, and by the way, we have lots of shrink wrap software that we, can install and get up and running within a matter of hours or days, weeks at most. But then again, to really get the accuracy question, right, that you asked. So for that, what we do is we typically take the client's own data, and then we custom train our AI models on that basis. And it typically takes at least one or two maybe iterations. But within one or two iterations of train and test, we can very rapidly, just within a matter of weeks. I think it doesn't take that long, and certainly not months. We can bring it up to almost 90% or more accuracy. So our clients are very happy with the results. They find them extremely dependable. And in terms of the sheer amount of, it's not just saving of effort. You can just do stuff that you couldn't have done with people. You can just do that much more.
Thank you so much. AI is doing so much these days. It's writing stories, writing video games, and it's great to see that it's also being applied to customer service, which seems like an easy job, but you really have to be on top of your game to do it well in a very busy setting. So thank you so much for sharing what you do. Now, we're continuing on with your insights here. What do you think the biggest problems faced by people in contact centres are in the present day?
Well, I mean, one of the things we've found, and it goes beyond the contact center, right? The contact center is an operation. It's serving a sort of a marketing goal to some degree, a business goal. And so this business of, automatically categorizing customer experience issues, getting real-time kind of support for agents, this is all a very important part of, the kind of challenges that they face. And I'll go one step beyond, I mean, this is one of the odd things, I mean, I guess a little bit of a contentious point, is that what we find, especially when it comes to the contact center operational role and the quality management, this historical idea of just sampling 1 out of every 100 calls, which is the way still a lot of it is being done right now, is sort of, I'll give you an analogy. That's like a fighter pilot in World War I. Before the invention of radar or air traffic control, would just go up in the sky, and it was their job to go and find the other fighter planes in the sky. Very big sky, by the way, as we know, and very difficult to do that. And so you probably run out of gas pretty often and come back without any kind of engagement. Whereas by the time you were rolling around to World War II, you had a completely different story. You had radar, you had air traffic controllers, and no matter what kind of fighter ace you may have been, you pretty much took orders from the air traffic controllers and said, hey, we need you at that point in time and space, right? So that is what our software does. It does a great job of being the radar because it can look through 100% of all the calls. Now, as long as we can teach our clients to trust our system, not to randomly select calls, but to allow the software to select these calls, we can really help them to make their customer service 100 times better than it's ever been before. So these are still some of the challenges that are faced. There is a lot of change management issues. I think people feel threatened by the existence of such software and AI and so on. And sometimes they say some really weird things like, why isn't your software, like, to continue our little, fighter plane analogy, why isn't the equivalent of something beyond the F-35, some super drone that can look around it for thousands of miles and shoot everything down automatically without any human intervention? I'm saying, well, that machine doesn't exist. It may never exist, and certainly if it does, it's going to take a long time, and we're like a ways off from that. So I think the right approach, is to think of this as human augmented AI. It's really a combination of human intelligence and machine intelligence that can only deliver the best results. And so these are the kind of change management issues that a lot of these contact centers are facing. All of this stuff is new. The AI is brand new. It's a new way of working. Sometimes it's uncomfortable to change things so radically, right? So these are some of the issues that they face from our perspective. I mean, of course, each industry has its own challenges, but when you look at it horizontally from an AI technology perspective, this is what we get to see.
That's fantastic. Because even if you have a really high Q, sometimes the EQ or the emotional intelligence, just remembering to breathe and let it go when you are feeling tense or stressed in a maybe a confrontation with a client, is sometimes the most difficult thing to learn to do. And if AI can help support these people in these positions who need to learn to do that, it sounds great.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for sharing your time, Jeh. Was there any final thoughts you'd like to share with us? Perhaps what are your objectives for the next year or so?
Well, technologically, we'd like to get into things like talking computers in the future. One of the reasons we haven't done that so far is that most of our client base really is in the sort of small and medium business. So we've got the SMB and partner market in mind more so than the enterprise. It's not as if we don't have enterprise clients, we do, but we're mostly and the kind of price points at which those clients tend to engage are very different. Today, the talking computer, is limited to like a big multi-million-dollar custom design project for an extremely large telco or some very, very large corporation. That is not the business that we are in. So we're trying to figure out how to build talking computers that are customized, meaningful, highly accurate, and to do this all at a price point that makes sense from an SMB and a channel distribution perspective. That's something we are trying to figure out going ahead. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing what you do. It sounds like a very exciting space to be working in that's doing a lot of great work.
Thanks.
We appreciate your insights. If you just joined us, we had an informative discussion with Jeh Daruvala, founder and CEO of Yactraq from Canada. For the full interview, please head to Kalkine Media's YouTube channel and keep watching for more of these excellent expert talks and live market updates. Till the next episode, stay apprised and invest wise with Kalkine Media.